If you're not building a flywheel into your dance studio business, you will never grow it the way that you're hoping to. My name is Bryce Conlon. Welcome back to Dance Studio Advertising, and I'm coming to you solo with an episode today that I have been wanting to record for a long time. I've really struggled to put the language to it and around it to describe these concepts. Today, I think I've got it figured out, so I'm excited to get into this. I cannot stress to you enough, if you are a studio owner and you have big ambitions, this episode is for you. Building a flywheel, taking advantage of the flywheel effect, is the only way to grow your studio business predictably and quickly over time. The problem is most dance studio owners don't get this. Even if they say that they get it, their behaviors indicate otherwise. They're not doing these things. They're not creating these experiences for themselves and their customers. And I promise you, if everybody understood this, if every dance studio understood this, the dance world would look way different. You would have a handful of studios in each market that were absolutely massive and zero room for anybody else to enter the market. So let's get stuck in. First, a history lesson. Sorry, hang with me. This is going to be important. The flywheel is a term from the Industrial Revolution. During that time when they were building like machines that were the size of a house, they put out a lot of power. They needed to use a lot, and they're largely using coal. They needed a lot of coal to power these machines and get them running and moving and doing what they needed to do. And it was expensive for these machines to run. And so somebody along the way said, well, what if there was a way that we could make it cheaper to run the machine and still have the same level of output? And somebody smarter than me came up with this idea of the flywheel. Flywheel was literally that. It was a wheel, a massive honking piece of metal that they built, and they put it as part of the machine. They turned it. And so they used the power to then get this big machine, this big wheel going, and then the wheel would power the machine. Now, why that's important is while a flywheel takes a tremendous amount of energy to get started, once it's running, it's very, just a little bit of energy here and there, a little bit of power here and there, and the thing can run forever. Do you see maybe where I'm going with this? Most dance studios don't have anything in their business that acts as a flywheel, this momentum machine that allows you to continue to grow the business day in and day out. It's a constant exertion of energy. It's going to the festivals. It's dancing in the parades. It's handing out flyers. Like I talked to someone the other day that's literally still knocking on doors, passing out flyers, and they're not getting very far with that because you have no momentum. Everything that you do requires an active output of energy. So let's talk about flywheels. What does a flywheel look like in a dance studio? Honestly, it is a marketing engine. We call this at Dance Motion Marketing an enrollment engine. There's 4 parts to it. The first part is you've got to have a magnetic offer. And we talk about these all the time. If you've seen us at Energize and Regold, at Regold Dance Teacher Life Conference, you have heard us talk about the importance of a magnetic offer, something to get parents coming your way. If you, then you need an attraction system. I'll cut to the chase, Facebook and Instagram ads. That's where you want to be. You need a follow-through system, something that you can keep track of your leads, build relationship with them, get moms through the front door, and finally your sales process. You have all of these together, you have an engine. And here's why this matters. Once the engine is built, and by the way, it takes considerable effort to build. Now, you can build this on your own and spend the time, watch the videos, learn the processes. That's an option. Or you can hire a company like ours, in which case we will put in that time, and it doesn't cost you time and energy. It costs you cash. It's an investment in your business. Somebody needs to put in the power, the energy to get that wheel going. But once it's going, it doesn't take much. 15, 20 minutes every day in the morning, half hour in the evening, responding to leads that are showing up on autopilot. And that's a term that I hate, but it's sort of how it works. They end up in your world, and suddenly you just give them a little bit of nurturing and they want to come walking through your front door. How is that a flywheel, you say? That sounds like a constant output of energy. Well, I get that. But here's what studio owners don't get. And if you can wrap your brain around this, and keep in mind, this is a hard concept to describe, so I may not do a very good job. But if you can get your brain around this, then it will give you both the confidence and the strategy to absolutely dominate your entire market, wherever that may be. Here's how it's a flywheel. Unlike, like right now, you have to go out. If you want a new customer, either a parent needs to recommend you, you're going to a concert or a festival, you're dancing in a parade, you're doing outreach, whatever the thing is. right now, it's a constant output. However, and it costs you time and it costs you money and it costs you energy. However, once you have this machine built, you only invest in it really until you hit what we call the break-even point. This is a big freaking number that I cannot, like, I can scream it from the rooftops and it still won't be enough. Once you understand what your break-even number is, then that means that you're not paying for your marketing anymore. Your flywheel is built and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So here's what I mean by that. I'm going to make a magic studio. It's Bryce's Amazing Dance Studio. I charge $100 a month at Bryce's Amazing Dance Studio for a kid who wants to take one class a week. You may charge more, you may charge less. It doesn't matter. Adjust the numbers and you will still figure out what that means for you. At Bryce's Amazing Dance Studio, I spend $1,000 a month on my marketing, on my advertising. And so how I put that out every month, it's going out every month. I write a check for $1,000 to Facebook, to Instagram, to whatever, $1,000. That's my output. How much do I need to bring back in to not feel that $1,000 out? Well, I need to bring $1,000 in. If I spend $1,000 and I make $1,000, then I don't feel anything. It's zero. I feel net neutral. It's not an expense for me. But here's where this gets really magic. Studio owners are going, okay, so I'm doing the math and I need 10 dancers every single month, or maybe it's 15 or 20 dancers every month for you in your world, for you to not feel $1,000 out every month, which feels like a lot. I got to get 20 dancers a month. How do I even do that? I'm going to run out of space real quick. It's not $1,000, or it's not 10 dancers a month or 20 dancers a month. It's 20 dancers, period. It's 10 dancers, period. So in my hypothetical amazing dance studio, if I'm writing a check for $1,000 a month on my advertising and it's going out, I need 10 dancers. Now I'm recording this in February, so I need 10 dancers in February. But I also need 10 dancers in March, but they don't need to be different dancers. The same 10 dancers that I got in February, if I keep them in March, then those dancers are covering my ads. I'm not paying it anymore. Those 10 dancers are. The fees that I collect from them are paying for my advertisements. And if I keep them in April, same thing. I'm not paying for it. So what happens now in March if I got 10 dancers in February and then I got 10 more dancers in March? Now I'm plus 20 overall. And that means that I'm actually making money now. Bryce's Amazing Dance Studio makes $1,000 in profit, in actual profit. And you do that again in April, in May, in June. And as long as you keep those 10 dancers, and yes, there's going to be some natural attrition. You're going to lose some here and there, and you're going to replace them here and there, and that's fine. As long as you are minimum plus 10, your marketing will pay for itself. Now, that's my hypothetical example. So that might be 8 for you. It might be 15 for you. I find that most studios that I talk to, realistically, to cover all of their marketing costs, need somewhere between 8 and 12 dancers in their program. These are the numbers we're talking about. So whenever I hear from studio owners who say, and I'm hearing it a lot lately, because there's, I think, a level of insecurity in the economy. We have a new administration. I think it's got people kind of feeling a little bit shaky. And a lot of studios are showing up going, I just can't afford marketing. It's out of my budget. I can't afford it. And I'll look at their numbers, and our team will pull demographics. And if you don't know how to do that, jump on a free strategy call with us. Just head to dancemotionmarketing.com. Totally free. We can pull up your numbers and demographics and go through it with you. No pressure, no arm twisting. You literally have to beg us to work with us because we're very selective with whom we choose to work. And the truth is that in this process, we'll pull up demographics and I'll look at a studio. And they'll have like 90,000 parents with dance-aged kids in their community. And they'll go, ooh, I can't afford it. And I'll go, you need 11 dancers. Do you think that if we started reaching out to 90,000 parents, that you could get 11 people to raise their hand and say, yeah? You need 8 people to say yeah. And this literally happened. Now, I told this story to some of the studios that we work with. One of these studios was Carissa. You heard from her a few weeks ago on this podcast. You can go back and check that out if you want to. But we heard from Carissa, and Carissa's in a tiny little town in central Connecticut, like tiny little town. And I told her that I was turned down. We were turned down. I found a studio. They were in Georgia someplace, and it was like 70, 80,000 parents in the area immediately surrounding that studio. And she's like, I just don't think we can get them. I don't think it's going to work. Now, that's fine. You can make that choice. To me, that's insanity, because if you have a machine that is working, of course you're going to get 10, 11, 12. Now, I've got one studio, Monet, who was also on this podcast, who, when we started working with her almost 4 years ago now, 3.5 years ago, when we turned on her ads, we turned them on a Thursday, and on Sunday night, she called us in a panic. She said, turn it off. I'm overwhelmed. I have too many leads. She signed up like 14 kids and filled a class in like a day or two, legitimately. And she never again felt the cost of her marketing. That's a flywheel effect. So what does that allow you to do? You've got to get this. Like, okay, hopefully you're capturing, like, picking up what I'm putting down, because my hope is that this is starting to make sense. When you have a flywheel in effect, it frees you up to do all the things that you want to do in your business. Now, I've talked to studio owners who, some of them work with us, some of them don't, and they're like, oh, I can't afford marketing because I need to replace the mirrors in my studio. Wrong. Do your marketing first, and then you will have extra cash to replace the mirrors in your studio. I can't afford marketing because I got to replace the Marley floors. Wrong. Get the customers and then go and replace the Marley floors, because the truth is most parents aren't buying your studio for the Marley floors. They're buying what you're doing because they think that it's going to be good for their kid or they're going to enjoy it. And so you've got to focus on the right thing, which is building that flywheel. So realistically, let's answer some comments. How long does it take to build a flywheel? On your own? I don't know. That's going to be largely dependent on your understanding of digital marketing, the amount of time that you can commit to it, your ability to learn, how to do something and then to execute against it, and your technological savvy. I know some studios that, truthfully, 4 years ago, we talked to them and they're like, I could do this on my own. And they are floundering today because it turned out to be a little more complicated and difficult than they thought it was going to be. I've talked to other studio owners who are like, yep, I get it. I can probably go do this. And maybe they can, maybe they can't. It's going to largely depend on you. I can tell you, when you work with our team, we're so dialed in at this point that within 7 days, we can have the entire thing built. We can have you trained on it. We can train your front staff, your front desk staff, and have it launched in about a week. So that's for metric. How much does it cost? Again, cost is one of those things, because if you're asking that question, you're probably thinking about it the wrong way. The proper way to think about it is, how many do I need to grow my business, to pay for it so I'm not paying for it? Those new dancers are. And in most cases, it's between 8 and 12 for your average studio. And that's figuring kind of at a low end, $55, $65 price point, high end. I talked to a studio probably about a month ago that her price point per dancer was so high, she needed 5.5 dancers to pay for the thing. So that's sort of where it is. Your mileage will vary, largely dependent on what it is. I will encourage you to think about the upside, how much you can make from building a flywheel and growing that, rather than how much is it going to cost. Because again, if you're doing traditional marketing, it is a constant expense. If you build a flywheel, a machine that works, you pay for it for the first month or 2 or 3. You feel that cost. After that, if it's done well, you don't feel that cost anymore. Your customers are going to bear that cost. And so it frees you up and allows you to grow. Benefit, the big benefit of having a flywheel, speed. That's it. It allows you to grow much, much faster than everyone else. They are busy trying to figure out how to get customers. You are getting customers. They are trying to figure out how they're going to afford it. You don't even feel the cost. They are trying to figure out how they can expand their reach. You have a plan to do it because you have cash in the bank that allows you to extend your reach. So big benefit, speed. You can outmarket everybody in your industry. And we see this time and time again. The market, if you haven't felt it yet, is starting to consolidate a little bit. After COVID, there was like a massive consolidation and there was this big rush on studios. So and a consolidation just means that like businesses are going out of business, right? Dance studios that had been around for 35 years, the pandemic happened and they're like, I'm out. I'm not even going to try this Zoom thing. I'm going to go retire, right? I'm done. Or they couldn't make it. And so they had to close their doors. And so after the pandemic in like 2022, 23, there was this big rush, and all of a sudden there's all these kids that were showing up to dance, and it was easy. Now it was easier. I still know a lot of studio owners who are like, it never really came back. I feel for you. I really do. However, that long tail from COVID, gone. It is absolutely gone. What has happened in the years since is a whole bunch of new businesses have popped up that are making the environment more competitive. And they're not necessarily dance studios either. Youth soccer, sports, baseball in different communities, football in different communities really pop up. We're seeing a rise in competitive cheer and dance teams that it's not really dance instruction. It's just like cheer. Like there's all these other things that are now competing for kids' time and activity. Even things like STEM programs where parents normally would be like, yeah, we're totally going to go get them into a fun, active extracurricular. Well, now they're like, I don't think so. I think my daughter would make a great doctor or engineer or whatever. And so you are competing now on a much wider playing field, and it's gotten harder. The other thing that's worth noting, and we've mentioned this before, we don't talk about it a lot. If you're listening to this, you're about to get a major nugget, is birth rates in the United States are declining significantly. But the dance industry on a whole, if you look at the number of new studios that are opening on an annual basis, just dance studios, I'm not even talking about karate and swim lessons and horseback riding or all the other things, is growing at 4.5%. And what that means is that there are fewer kids for more kids programs. And this is very real. So if you are listening to this today and you're going, okay, I get it. I get the flywheel. I understand the flywheel effect. I understand why it's important and what I need to do. I just don't know what to do about it. My suggestion to you, reach out to our team. Let's have a conversation. We can point you in the right direction. We can start having a chat, help you identify the gaps currently in your marketing. It costs you nothing. We've gotten 5-star reviews just from this call from people who are like, wow, I've paid for things that weren't as valuable as this free call. Head on over to dancemotionmarketing.com, set up a free call with our team. We would love to help get your thinking right and put you on the right path to being the dominant dance studio in your community. Chat soon.